At Gmail?
Oh, it's A. Buscarin?
Yeah.
Sorry. Not A.G. Buscarin?
AG, you're right. I'm sorry. It's AG Buscarin at Gmail. This is a different number for Andrea than I have. Oh, this is her landline, okay. It's going into voicemail.
Yeah. Andrea's numbers went right to voicemail. This is the Washington. This is the landline number.
I have a mobile number for it.
Give that a try.
Can you try?
Yeah, is that the 508-901-5016 number?
202 number.
No.
Which I tell.
Tell her we're having technical difficulties. We'll call her back in about 5 minutes. We can't let it go any longer.
No, that's a voicemail.
Yeah. Is that 489-5277?
No, it's a 202, you said, wasn't it?
489-5277.
Yeah, that's what I just called. Let me try her other number.
She just sent me a text that says calling me.
She did?
Yeah, that was. I just thought it was all through.
Did you get the email off to?
I did.
There's something coming. Think? Right. When you're texting, ask her which number to call.
My email to her this morning, I asked if she wanted the 202-489-5277 number, and she said yes.
That's going into voicemail.
Someone just called me. So okay, should I try to call? I just asked Senator which number should we use. I emailed him to take a while to get the Tony go across the city.
Shouldn't it?
202-489-5277.
That's what she sent you an answer.
I'm sorry, we're having trouble with the phone, so we'll give it another minute, and then we're gonna bag what we're waiting for.
I'm just thinking, trying to make. So we call off.
I wonder if he is. Do
you have a cell phone number? Tony?
Not with me, no. You sent us an email with all that information, but I don't know if you can retrieve that. And I know I don't have it. Maybe I can.
All I have is his home phone. All right, I don't want to wait any longer.
Hello?
Andrea? Andrea?
Yes.
It's Dan. Sorry, we've had some...
Hi.
Hi. We've had some problems with the speakerphone here, and we appear in the process to have lost Mr. Buscarin. But we're going to go forward. I'm just going to give the 30-second notice to the TV crew.
Okay.
So, 30 seconds. Hot in Washington?
Yes, and rainy,
Oh, really?
muggy.
Typical
Yeah.
foggy bottom weather.
That's right. It's supposed to clear up tomorrow, so that's good. And it's been beautiful. And not too bad, not too hot.
Good.
But today, all the rain, muggy.
We're going to get it tomorrow. So
Yeah, we're getting it tomorrow. All right, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for August 12th, 2014. Are there any comments on the agenda?
No?
Oh, I should announce that Ms. Buscarin is participating remotely, so all votes will have to be on a roll call basis.
This plan's right.
Ms. Planzer, I'm sorry,
Yes,
Ms.
Ms.
Planzer. And this meeting is being recorded. Are there any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. I think I'm going to ask for comments on all four sets of minutes, and then we can take one vote of approval, if that's appropriate. Are there any comments on the minutes of June 10th, 2014, January 24th, 2014, June 24th, 2014, February 11th, 2014 executive session minutes, and May 27th, 2014 executive session minutes?
No?
I had one small typo on June 10th.
Go ahead.
Under pending matters, the MOU update, the second to last line, the preview of the airport commission, I think should be the purview.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, which page is that on?
That's on the second page.
Second page, pending matters, got it.
PERVIEW, I
Yes.
believe.
You got that,
Oh, yep, got it.
Ms. Torres?
Yep.
All right, we'll make that correction.
And then I have one small typo. It is on the June 24th last page, the first sentence. Mr. Sylvia's name is spelt with a I instead of a Y-A, I believe. It's S-I-L-V-Y-A. S-Y-L. B-I-A. Yeah.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Topham? Mr. Gasparo? Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. I'll do the same thing with the two warrants of July 23, 2014, and August 6, 2014. Are there any comments? Is there a motion to approve or to ratify those warrants?
I'll make a motion to ratify 723 and 86 warrants.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none, pending leases and contracts. Mr. Rafter?
We have a license agreement with RTT Concierge. That's essentially just our typical business fee. Again, that's a concierge service where the company drives vehicles onto the ramp and meets aircraft. We have a lease, the standard lease with Air Wisconsin, DBA US Airways Express. That's their seasonal airline agreement. Part of the reason for those being a little late this year is because we revamped it and they had to send it on to various other departments to get their approvals. We also have a contract with Sherrill Tree for a skid-mounted sprayer. That's for the environmental truck that we'll be doing herbicide and pesticide treatment with. A contract amendment with Kevin Conrad to extend it for 1 month. He was he did the air conditioning in the gift shop. And we have an additional...
But there's no additional cost there.
No, no additional cost, just an extension of time. And we have a other transaction agreement with the FAA, increasing the funding by $420,000 for the air traffic control tower, bringing the total to $4,795,000.
Which is good news. Questions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Gasparo. I have a question. Is the RTT concierge, is it the only service that is allowed that does that? No?
I know of at least one other, but we have various permits for that type of operation.
Okay.
Some are commercial in the front, some are actually granted access onto the apron.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gasparo?
I was just going to make a motion to approve the license agreement, lease agreements, and contracts as listed on Exhibit 1.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The town memorandum of understanding?
We are still waiting for the procurement office to issue the town's procurement policy. That was supposed to be due out shortly, but we checked again as early as yesterday and have not heard anything back as to the status of that. So we're still waiting to see what their final policy is before we can put the language into mirror and or adopt or modify certain portions of it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Formerly used defense status. Is there any new information on the situation generally?
Nothing other than our attorneys.
Right. Well, as you know, we've received a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers. It has subsequently been discussed with Council. Council has pointed out that the investigation could involve risks beyond the site, depending on what they find, and we don't know what the extent of those risks are. I think we need to put an end to this discussion about the proposed lease with Mr. Smith, and would entertain a motion to terminate the procurement on that matter.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Is
And
there-
I just have discussion if we could for a
Yeah,
moment.
absolutely.
As much as I think, I know just to speak for myself, I would have liked to have seen us be able to come to terms. I think there's just too much risk for the airport. So that's why I'm going to support the motion to cancel the procurement.
And that is why I made the motion. As I said 2 weeks ago, our last meeting, I felt that it was too much of a risk for us to take on.
Ms. Planzer, do you have any comments? I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Is there any other way to go from here other than terminating procurement. I know we need to put an end to it, but I don't know if we have any other options.
Only if we go against the advice of counsel.
Okay.
But
Is there another area? I know we couldn't ask them just the last time, but is there another area that's available that if they were interested in it, that would not have this risk involved?
Well, it would have to go through procurement.
Right, that I understand, but, I mean, if they really wanted it, are they interested in doing that? We don't know.
I think we should take a vote on the
Okay,
motion
I
that's
agree.
on the floor and then discuss how we go forward, if we go forward on this. If that's agreeable to everybody?
Yes.
Have they responded? Is there anything new from their perspective?
Not that we're aware of. But they are not here tonight.
Okay.
Ms. Planzer, how do you vote on the motion?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I think in response to your point, Ms. Topham, we could direct the airport manager to look at other possible options away from the Bunker Road property to see if there's anything suitable. And if there is, we could put it out for procurement, but, obviously, it's whoever puts in the highest bid for the property at that point, so there's no assurance that Mr.
Smith would get it.
Smith would get it. But if that's the pleasure, I think we should take a vote on that, make a motion to ask the manager to investigate other possible sites on airport property and report back with a recommendation.
I would like to make that motion, and just for, for our own information and to see if it is, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Is there a second? Mr. Gasparo? Any further comments? Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? The chair votes aye. All right. Thank you. Various personnel matters.
Just an update on the job salary compensation classification study. I've been going back and forth emails with Don Jacobs. He was out of state at his son's wedding up until today, and I have to double check. We either scheduled a meeting or he was going to get back to me this week and get me some dates so we can sit down and begin that process and refine or define the scope of work that he needs to perform. The other personnel item we had to do with the non-union personnel manual. We have comments back from our attorney on, if you recall, the commission, I believe, voted to adopt the change to that one page subject to the legal review, and we have legal review back, but I think we may still have questions on that.
I have one question on it, which is whether in the middle of the paragraph that starts exempt employees, where it says such work in excess of 40 hours per week shall be approved in advance by the airport manager. I had the language in there whenever practicable, because I can envision circumstances where somebody might have to work overtime and the manager might not be available. We don't want, I think it's unlikely, but I really don't want somebody saying, I couldn't do it because I couldn't get hold of the manager. So I would ask that we adopt this policy as it's been amended, but before we finalize it, unless somebody has an objection, we revisit that one phrase with council.
Would alternate language?
Yeah, I have an objection to that one, whenever practical, because then that opens it up. It might be, you can have a policy in place of how to get approval. It doesn't have to be Tom actually saying, yes, I approve. There could be some sort of procedure in place that would be, under these circumstances he approves, or through some other method.
Well, that's true, too. You could do it that way.
I have a comment. What about using the language instead of wherever practicable, insert or his designee? So in other words, if Tom had sort of a second in charge or somebody else that he could decide, so that there's always going to be.
What if that person was the person?
It was just a thought. That's a good point. I don't know, but wherever practicable concerns me that it might just be a little too wide open.
All right, we could.
It could just be airport manager, his designee, because he's going to have someone to designate, right? Someone's going to be in charge.
There's always someone else.
But if that person is the person who needs to work overtime, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but what if I may?
You could have a couple of designees.
Right, or Tom could, if that was the only case, then he could pre-approve that one person to work overtime if needed when in his stead.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think he could cover it as a managerial policy, and then in the case that he's not here, he's typically appointing somebody to be the second in charge, if you would, or the person in charge in his place, and in doing so could also approve overtime as may be necessary. Just seems that language would then give you the alternate to say the airport manager or his designee.
I guess where I came from with the language wherever practicable is these people are all supervisors. And I would hope we would have enough faith in them to allow them, when they can't, if they couldn't reach the manager, to make the decision on their own whether overtime is important or not. Mr. Rafter, do you have a feeling on this?
I agree either way. I mean, Dan, I know what you're saying there. I'm just trying to review what, it says approved in advance by the airport manager. So it's either approved in advance by the airport manager when practical, or if it's not. I'm trying to look at the context. Is that saying when practical in advance, or when practical by the airport manager?
Either one.
So if it's got to be done in advance, if I'm going to go away, it should have already been approved.
But if there's an emergency situation, or there's a snow, whatever it is.
I would rely on my designee,
Yeah.
and, what's the chance of that individual being the person? Then it would have to be in a verbal or some other,
All right. I'm agreeable to his designee. I think it leaves a couple of loose ends, but
I would like to hear, I think, from our attorney, David, what his objection or thought was to that, too.
Okay.
Just so that we're covering his concern.
And he was the one who struck the language?
he was the one who struck the line.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
The
Well, we can wait till approve this until the next meeting, can we not?
Yeah, it's not critical.
I mean, we approved it,
Yeah.
basically subject to his
Does Ms.
changes.
Planger have something she wanted to add?
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Andrea?
Yes.
Apologize.
the issue also is like in advance, whenever practice, really in advance. In an emergency, she'll be approved, if possible.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
So if we just hear what the, or designee, so if the, we'll see what council says. I think there's an easy way to reword it, so
Okay,
Yeah, it's not a major.
it makes clear.
all right,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, next is the
Financial update.
financial update.
This is the quarterly report, fourth quarter report that will be presented to the Board of Selectmen next week at their meeting. It's a good news, bad news type story. We are still reliant on the town subsidy. However, it's been cut down from $1.1 million to about $304,000, so that's good. The better news, if you will, though, is that we had applied a $1.3 million in retained earnings from the budget to balance our budget, and we only had to use $172,000 roughly. So that's good news. We will automatically have about $1.1 million rolling over into retained earnings. So that's good. And like I said, we're not there yet. I think we've contained most of the bleeding. This year we should turn the corner. We don't have a subsidy in there this
Well,
year.
yeah, we thought we would need both the 1341 and the 304.
Right.
And we only need a portion of the 304, or the
Well,
304 plus a small amount of the
Yeah,
retained.
you could look at it either way.
Yeah.
You could, take more from retained or whatever.
Yeah, but I think, I guess if I had known it was going to come out this way, I would have voted to take more from retained earnings and leave the general fund subsidy on the table. But once it's voted at town meeting, we've got it whether we want it or not.
And in that regard, too, we've begun discussions with the town manager and the finance manager on a draft repayment agreement that we will have to have approved by all parties. But we're looking forward to that. So, again, some good news there. You may see in certain line items we're below expense fairly significantly in some. And I will simply say in a nutshell, the majority of some of that has to do with where the expense is coming from. You may recall there's not a tremendous history of line item breakout, and the past practice was if we exhausted one line item, we would just go to another one and take it out of there. So we're no longer doing that. We're trying to track them better. So where you may see one's low by one number, the other one may be up by that number. So we're still balancing or trying to, how should I say this, craft a better budget that's more specific.
And I like now the way they're showing the fuel sales in the revolver and fuel sales in excess of the revolving fund. I think that works well and explains it. Are there any questions or comments on the year-end financials?
One other item I do want to mention under finance.
Before we get
sorry.
on to that, Mr. Gaspar, you had a question? Or
Well, I was
comment?
just going to comment. Go ahead. I'll let Tom go first.
There was an audit committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, too, and if you recall in the management letter, there was a concern about fixed assets. We were working with the town on that. There were 2 lists of fixed assets. As I understand it, the reason for that was that the airport had done it for a few years. The town had just started, and all they did was simply, with their new software, program in what our records were. So we're working to eliminate the 2 different lists. We'll have one list, one process, one procedure, and we're working very closely with them and making some good headway. So that's it.
All right.
Did you have a question?
Mr.
I
Gaspar?
was just going to say, in general, I know that we still have the master plan and the finance stuff we're waiting for, but I think just looking at this, it's important to reiterate that we sort of were somewhat saved by the reduction in expenditures, but that we still need to look at revenue overall and our overall fee structure. While I recognize that PFC is one piece of things, I think that we still have to look at the overall rates and charges to make some revenue increases to eliminate the subsidy. I still would like to see an investigation of the peak seasonal pricing concept on the ramp parking. Again, I feel like maybe we missed it for this season and we're waiting on the master plan, but given that the ramp is often near occupancy, it seems that may be during not a discriminatory across the board, except for the seasonal aspect of it. I think that there may be a chance to enhance some revenue there in a way that hopefully won't negatively impact overall fuel sales and operations, as well as looking really across the board at the rates and charges for some incremental increases to sort of increase the revenue and eliminate the subsidy overall.
To that point, I think we are, well, I know we're looking at a number of things, and I just recently saw some of the master plan financial information that makes recommendations to our rates and charges. But I think we need to be careful where we put the emphasis and rather diversify. I think we have other opportunities and alternatives where we need to bring some up and level it off a little bit too. But I fully understand where you're coming from, and even without those, we should be in a good budget, but we're going to look at that to make it more sustainable.
Yeah, and really, as we start looking to then, over the next few months, formulate the next fiscal year budget, I would like to see that we're now, at a timing, if we can have this happen in the next couple of months, then we'd be in a good spot as we formulate that heading into November.
We I had a meeting this past weekend with the financial consultant for the master plan. As part of this repayment discussion, the town has asked for a forecast for this year. In my discussions with the master plan consultant, she has to do a 5-year forecast or projection for the operating and capital. So we will have that in place, and it will look at all those types of things, when we introduce a change in a fee, what we'll anticipate for additional revenue. Later on in my agenda, I will give you some ideas as to one of the bigger ones that we're already working on, too.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions on the financial update? The master plan and sustainability program update?
Again, good and bad news. Bad news, we haven't received weekly reports in a while, and I'm going to be reaching out to Mr. Chamberlain about that. The good news is we have received, we met on Chapter 6 facility requirements. We went through that. They're in the process of finalizing it. I believe I sent that to the commission already, Chapter 6. And last week we received terminal spatial needs analysis. We have a conference call this Friday on that, and once they get that solidified, that's going to be part of this next alternative analysis chapter, and once we get a draft, we'll send that around for comment. The terminal spatial needs was done, I think, very well. Identified our deficiencies and where we need to work to resolve them. It's a group out of Denver that's associated with Jacobs that's doing that. So as I said, we'll have a conference call with them. And a little bit of good news, but don't get too excited. We're asking for approval of a MassDOT grant for the master plan. This is no additional money. It's just a different fiscal year. So they split it over 2 fiscal years, and this is like phase 2 of the grant that they're going to be giving. So that's where we are, and we had an email from one of the members of the advisory committee asking when the next meeting is going to be. So that's another thing I want to discuss with Mr. Chamberlain. Where are we on that whole process? So I'm getting mixed signals from the group. I'll leave it at that. But I will be in touch with them.
Any questions or comments?
Do we need a motion to accept the grant award?
I believe so, yes.
We make a motion to accept the Mass DOT grant award in the amount of $22,341.81.
And I'll second that motion.
Any other comment? Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Change order update for the GA building.
The 2 things on the GA building. One, the change order, it's just an update on status. There was a change order that we had declined. We went back and negotiated and got it dropped down slightly. It was for the electric for the hand dryers. So I'd signed that under our previous approval. It was below the $10,000 limit. And the preliminary final pay requisition is being processed through the town and the warrant. So we should be, hopefully, the next pay requisition should be the final pay rec. But there are still some open POs that we're debating, if you will, or flat out have rejected.
And those are the ones that are listed here, or are there others besides those? At the bottom.
Yes, I know this is it. I'm not going to speak to it.
There was a challenge with we had signed some, they had signed some, and we had 2 different lists going. We met with the NAG, and we believe this is the final.
Okay. So we're looking at about an additional exposure of about $10,700, and then with adjustments for any of the punch list that we finish.
Correct. We're taking credits for
Yeah,
those.
I think
yes.
it would be great if we could have at the next meeting a list of those
Okay.
ones that we're taking credits for. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Now you can give your report.
I want to make a note to make sure we get that. Okay. other items on the GA building, the irrigation and grass, we have received the quotes. The contract, the contract was approved by town, I believe, that we needed. So hopefully we'll get that work rolling as soon as we get that back and get everybody.
Yeah, we haven't voted on that, though, have we?
No,
So does that have to wait till September?
yes. The contractor hasn't even signed it yet.
Okay.
Okay. And again, just a reminder for the commission, though, we are doing more than what was in the original GA contract. They had just, I believe, hydro seeding, and we're actually going to be doing either grass or sod, but we're doing an irrigation system with it so that it doesn't die. Our control tower, we had the 10% design review meeting. Some of the items they've identified need to be purchased in advance because of long lead, such things as the rotating beacon. We're going to be replacing that, so we will be putting out separate procurement for it. And at this point in time, the schedule is possibly back on track to be completed by May.
Ooh, nice.
How's that?
We're not sure how that happened. We're not sure, and when I say we, myself and the tower chief, we'll take it if we get it, but we're not going to put all our eggs in that basket. We'll be prepared if we need to go through the summer. So they did have a financial estimate, but the 10% is rather high. There were a number of contingencies in there. They're working to refine that. And although the next deliverable, I believe, is at the 70%, they are working to have something in between that they can continue to modify it. I saw today, as a matter of fact, they were asking the tower chief for some thoughts. They gave him some options on a second floor design layout and things, so that's moving along. The security project and the firefighting vehicle contracts are gone to DOT for final signature, and once that's done, then we'll actually enter into or fully execute a document, send it to the appropriate parties, and get the equipment and things started. So
I got to see a like truck in Oshkosh
tried to get us a good deal.
of what's coming. And I sent you a picture, right?
Yep, yeah, the striker.
Yep.
But what I found out is we didn't want
Right.
that snozzle, so that's good.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. It looks really cool, but it was $200,000. So
Yeah, it's,
Just for a nozzle?
well, it's a snozzle. It's a
Snozzle.
big boom that comes off the top. Couple of other updates. Our website, NOAA is working with the WPI group to have some students come in the October timeframe and have completed by mid to late December an update of our website. We acknowledge there are a lot of challenges with it. We're hoping to get a very good product out of these folks, so that's a good thing happening there. You may have seen
Is everybody familiar with that
No, I was just going to ask that, but I-
Worcester
tech?
Institute.
Polytech Institute.
Sends about, 15 or 16 students down to the island every fall to work on various projects. And I guess, I don't know how it came to our attention, but we said that this is what we wanted.
Great.
And so.
Yeah, they're doing, various departments are doing work in the fire department,
Right.
I think, plus a number of departments, so.
Very good.
So hopefully we can get a good product out of that. Another update, I know there was a individual who had filed a complaint about our $300 deposit for a identification badge. I've looked into that. I spoke with Mr. Tallman, and apparently the history of it is that there was a significant issue in years past with the GA community on returning the badges, so that in the, I believe it was 2011-12 timeframe before I got here, they increased it to the 300, and that has stemmed the tide somewhat of the loss rate. The way this works is each year we're required to do a audit of our identification badges, and the TSA has acceptable limits. if in fact we exceed that limit, we have to revamp the entire ID system, which could be very costly and very time-consuming. So our effort is to try to reduce the number of badges that are either lost or not returned. And again, he's provided me with a number of details. I don't want to get out too much how many badges and things. I had mentioned to Mr. Turner, I thought it was in the neighborhood of 300, but I was off by over 100. It's more than 300. So again, there's a reason why we do this. We're not trying to target or penalize any one group or individual. It's just part of the nature of our airport that we have a SIDA area immediately adjacent to our general aviation on both sides, and it's only separated by a line, so it's all contiguous apron. Some airports you may have a GA area on the other side of the runway, and therefore you may not need to have badges, and you can have different types of access. But since they're required to have a badge that is part of our overall security system, this is, brings us into the whole issue of the requirement to have an audit and need for it. So I told Mr. Turner I'd look into it. I've looked into different ways, and I'm still open to looking into ways that we can try to make this more palatable. But again, we've got...
How many people actually do we have deposits from, do you know?
Over 400, almost 450.
We have deposits?
Well, no, that's so many badges. Now,
Right.
the ones that don't have to pay a fee are aircraft owners that have an agreement with the airport. And I understand there may be an opening there that we have to close a gap on, too. The employees of the airport do not pay because, again, what we do is you must return your badge to get your final paycheck. So we have something we can hold there. The airline employees all pay, and you may have seen in the warrants that you sign, we have refunds. When they give the badge back in, we issue them their money back. So exactly how many pay, Dan, I don't know, but I would guess it's probably in the 300 to 350 range. So, again...
That you have deposits on?
Pardon me?
That you have deposits on?
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm estimating, yeah.
Okay. Oh.
And again, some of the folks that have IDs, especially in the GA community, and this is where I think there was a loss issue, are folks such as Mr. Turner that either don't own the airplane but use the aircraft. We have caretakers that are also badged that either come out and pick up the car or drop the people off the airplane and take the car back to the house or things like that. We have contractors that come out and do work that have to be badged. Every one of our construction projects, all the contractors have to pay that too. So it's quite a system to manage, but we're trying to, again, minimize our loss rate on that.
So it's more of a not returning it issue than it is, oops, I lost it, I need another one.
Right. And it's both, because obviously either one is that you have to take it out of the system, but it's the majority of the issue, as I understood it historically, was not returning them.
Which makes more sense for a higher deposit.
Right. That's
Because if you return, you get your money. If you lose it, yeah, it's a different issue.
And we have TSA penalties if our loss rate exceeds a certain percentage.
And in fact...
Well, it's not really a penalty. I think it's you have to rebadge the airport.
Well, but isn't there a fine?
They don't have an enforcement.
No.
I don't think so. No, there's no, it's just a compliance
Right.
issue, not an enforcement issue.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to operations, on the McGrath hangar, we had a meeting today with Bill, went over various terms. We're going to ask legal to prepare a new agreement. There were a couple of things that we're going to have some language needs on that we have to work through some of the specifics. So as soon as we get a draft, I will get that out to the commission. We have our full-scale exercise, as I mentioned before, on September 24th. There's a requirement for Airport Commission and Airport Administration to take certain levels of NIMS, National Incident Management Systems training. I spoke to our consultant, and we're going to work through some dates on when we can get that accomplished, hopefully before the end of the month. The POPs weekend update just wasn't nearly as good as last year. In fact, our sales are down over $40,000. So we took a bit of a hit there. There's I may have mentioned this in a previous meeting, but we have an agreement with the Parks and Rec Department for the Delta Fields. That has expired, but we need to do some homework. We're tracking down exactly what the status of that agreement was or is. There were payments and things in lieu of payments and so on. So as soon as we get that organized a little better, we'll be presenting that to the Commission for request for renewing that. One of the items, Commissioner Gasparo was talking about the rates and charges earlier. One that we're working diligently on, because it is a high-ticket item, is our parking lot operation. We have identified a number of means and methods and scofflaws, how they're essentially beating the system. We've also identified a number of ways to correct that. And we're working with the police department, working with our operations staff, Scheiten Bachman, another company, and we're going to work. We've been working very quickly on trying to change some operational things and increase the, or I shouldn't say increase, but increase the capture rate of what we really should be making and what people should be paying. There are, as I say, a number of, I can't even tell you how many events a day and examples, but when I went out there with one of our employees just to check the system out, here's a token, brand new token, because we changed the colors. That's part of one of the things we did. Put it in, it was $40 that somebody owed us. So we know people are beating the system. We're just working to identify exactly how much, and we're working to close that gap. And if anybody that's watching on the TV, just a heads up, we actually have methods and means now that we can see things, and we did catch a couple of folks, but we're going to increase that too. So we're trying to tighten.
Long-term parking you're speaking about?
All
Or
parking.
all parking?
All parking. Long-term predominantly, overnight, and that's where a lot of it is being abused.
But it's being abused there, but the free daytime parking is
It's
helping
helping to abuse it.
No.
helping to
No.
abuse it.
So
Honesty is not the best policy, huh?
it is if you're
It's
honest.
the best policy. It's the best policy. But I think one thing that's also interesting, Mr. Raffer, you might comment on the system itself.
The system itself is actually a very good system, and we had a parking lot operator come in and look at the system. He went through the whole physical outlay, went down the basement, the computers, everything, and he even indicated, he said, this is typically very good equipment, and you do have a very good system. I have been diving into the computer as much as possible, and I'm finding that this system will do a number of things. It's amazing what it knows and what it can tell you. It can start telling us when people are beating systems and how. We just have to figure out a couple of codes, and that's why I said we're calling in the company to do some training for us. But it is a granted, there are some maintenance issues on the system, but what we're finding too is that some of that may be intentional. We're finding people putting coins in where the tokens are supposed to be dispensed, jamming the system. There's a number of different things we're finding as to why the maintenance items were high. They've dropped significantly. We've changed our process. We have backup systems. We have additional on-the-shelf, ready-to-go type things. So, but it is a very strong revenue control system. I can literally pull up one screen and watch every single transaction as it occurs in real time. So, again, we have the tools. We now need to learn how to use some of them better, and we're also going to be, as I say, using some other tools. The police department have some things that could be very helpful for us, and I've talked to the chief about that, so we're going to work to employ those as well.
Thank you. Mr. Costello?
I'm wondering if some additional signage might help along the lines of violators will be prosecuted, fined, along the lines of this operation is under surveillance. Just some thoughts. I leave it to you.
We do have some of that,
But
there's
you know,
some
I mean,
things that, yeah.
you know, it might help to deter some of it. I mean, it's a super easy system to beat.
Well, and
You
it's
know,
amazing
if you're
how,
not going to enforce.
it's amazing how bold some of the folks are, too.
Yeah, it's not difficult.
When I was in the lot with our employee, somebody did it right to our face.
Yeah.
And we took the picture so we could verify it, and we'll go after them. So,
And then what are the consequences? If it's only what you would have paid anyway, well then,
no,
you know, that's what I'm sort of, I know you're working on it.
I
but
laid
it's
the
just my
groundwork. I
thoughts.
spoke to the chief about that, about
Yeah.
what laws are in place and which ones they'd be cited for and so on.
Perfect.
Yep.
And I just don't know if that needs to be
just-
noticed,
just so
sort
I
of
can-
a sign that's, sometimes when you get into
Right,
those
a warning
things,
sign or something, yeah,
right,
yeah.
that if you then, you've got to put the violator on notice, maybe it
That you-
says per
yeah.
MGL something or other.
But just to give the commissioners a sense of the order of magnitude here, you may see in the budget parking revenue, and it's down in the 300 plus range. It most likely should be closer to the 400 to 450,000.
Yeah, I thought a half even, I mean.
It's a $50,000 to $100,000 issue that we're looking at here, and that's why we're spending time on that, because that's a quick fix to an existing problem.
Thank you.
I shouldn't say a quick fix, but
Potential solution.
it's a fix to where we don't have to raise anything else, we just have to actually collect what is due us.
I think when Mr. Rafter and I were talking about this earlier today, the thing that struck me was that this system works well when you've got people in a booth,
Oh, yes.
you know, at the exit gate.
Well, but that's,
Part of it. It's part of
Yeah.
it. It's not all of it.
and
But
then talking to the consultant, you know, you have to do a return on investment analysis to say how much it's worth. So one of the things we're looking at is whether staffing part-time out there and randomly. Again, just to keep people aware and also to provide a better service. So we're looking at a number of different things. On statistics, the operations are up for June, which is good news, 8.3%, but year-to-date, they're still down 5.7%. The employments were essentially flat, and it's, I mean, when I say flat, they're within, I want to say it was about 6 passengers or something crazy of last June. Yeah, 6 passengers. 19,847 last year, and this year it's 19,841. So I consider that flat. But on the fuel sales, June was down 8%, but year-to-date we're still up 2.5%. As I mentioned, the Pops weekend, for whatever reason, didn't, you know, the weather was good, and maybe that's bad for us for selling fuel. Avgas for June was up 32%. In asking staff what they thought that might be, they said it appears as though Cape Air is buying more fuel, and it might be that it's a seasonal issue, and maybe that, you know, the volume they're doing over in Boston, the amount trying to get it there, I'm not sure, but it's good news that the avgas was going up. Bigger item on the statistics was the noise, and I believe you sent Noah's explanation for his reasoning for why the noise complaints were up 76%. Some of the things that, you know, part of it was weather, some of it was that there was one complainant that, you know, wanted each and every complaint that he called in filed, and he would continuously call back. There's others that do call all the time. But overall, I know it looks bad, but believe it or not, I think we're showing some progress, and I think Noah has a very good handle on the situation. We do need to circle back. He is now back in the office somewhat and get the environmental subcommittee together so we can look at he has some recommendations for the system, what we want to do with the noise monitoring or flight tracking monitoring system. So and how he wants to take the program. And I will try to entertain any questions I can there. That's my report.
Any comments? Further questions?
No?
All right, thank you. There are no subcommittee reports that I'm aware of. Are there any commissioners' comments? Ms. Planter, I would just point out this electronic communications policy, which I think Ms. Topham received from the town, but Mr. Gasparo and Ms. Planter did not, I believe.
I received it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it came through in the packet. Anyhow, I'm violating it right now. I've got my phone on the desk.
As long as you don't use it, right?
No, it's supposed to be out of sight.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, it's somewhere in here. Number 2 on the back page. The member shall store mobile technology devices in a location that is out of public view. And so on. So it's not been an issue here, but I think we just need to make a note of it. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session, not to return to public session. Under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to review executive section minutes. I'm not going to read all the dates for possible release, and July 15th, 2014 for review and possible release. And B, under Clause 3, to conduct a strategy session with respect to collective bargaining, where if held in open session, may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the Airport Commission. Is there such a motion?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second? Mr. Gasparo, thank you. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Could you send me minutes for the...
How are we going to do David, Jake?
We're going to call him. We can do that, yeah. We've got some things to sign, right?
Yes. And Dan, I apologize. I had 2 island airs this morning, and you've only signed 1. So let me pass this one up to Arthur, and then so this you'll have to initial and then sign,
Right.
and then Arthur, please.
Bear with us for a minute, Andrea, please. If you want to take a break, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, thank you.